Hello everyone, welcome to your week 2 videos. There's going to be 2 videos coming out this week for 2 different pages of your CGP textbook that you are doing. I've realised that because the channel that I've got on YouTube is a channel for children, it means that it automatically disables comments. So although I've been saying do comment if you've got any questions or any suggestions or requests, I now realise you can't do that. So please do email in. Mrs. Crump can forward me emails if you do have any questions, requests, or anything at all that you want to talk to me about. Okay, so today we are going to look at pages 12 and 13 of your maths textbook. And particularly we're looking at the partitioning for question 3 and also the partitioning in question 4 and 5, and then 6 and 7, the questions that come after that as well. Okay, now we've done lots of partitioning in class, so it should be fairly straightforward, but we'll just go through some bits together just to make sure that you know what you're doing. So to start off with, just got kind of a little game to play. Now, what you will probably want to do is write down on a piece of paper, if you can find one, and you can pause the video to find a piece of paper. If you write down odd, 9 units, 2 tens and 4 tens, just spread out on a piece of paper, because then I would like you to sort these numbers around these categories. Now, some of them might go into more than one category, so you could write them in more than one. So for example, what you might want to do on a piece of paper, I'll just show you very quickly over here, is writing down the yellow cards. Okay, so for example, I've written down 2 tens, 4 tens and 2 tens, and then around this you can write down any of the numbers on the pegs which would fit that group. Okay, so for example, if we had the number 48, then that could be put around this one, and if I had the number, I'll show you this in a second, if I had the number 29, that would be put around that one there. Okay, so pause the video so you can grab some paper, because that will be really useful, and write out the yellow cards, and then look at the pegs and write these numbers next to whichever category you think they could fit, and they might fit more than one. Please then pause the video, because I'm going to just carry on and peg on the pegs in a way that I choose, and it might be different to you, but just to show you how you should have kind of completed the activity, and just for you to check to see if you were right. So pause the video, have a go, and then see if yours matches mine. Okay, so as I said, these may well be different to yours, and there are some that have more than one answer, and so you might have put one on more than one. I can only put one on peg on one because I'm not writing them. So I'm going to start with 19. 19 has 9 units. Okay, so I'm going to peg that one on there. Just going to put that one over there for a second. 46 has 4 tens. 25, 2 tens. 7, now 7 doesn't have 4 tens, 2 tens or 9 units, but it is odd. 73, no, odd, because it ends in a 3. Remember, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 makes an odd number. 98, now it doesn't have 4 tens, doesn't have 2 tens, doesn't have 9 units, and it's not odd, so that one is going to stay out on its own. 28, 2 tens. Now I'm going to speed the video up a little bit here to make this go a little bit quicker, and then you can see if you got the same as me. Okay, so this is what I've gone for. I've got 3 pegs that don't fit. I've got 3 on odd, 73, 7 and 91. I've got 2 on the 9 units, 19 and 89. I've got 3 on the 2 tens, 28, 25 and 124. And I've got 1 on the 4 tens, 46. Okay, you might have some numbers which could have also gone on the odd one, which you've put down here. Okay, how did you get on? Hopefully you agree with me and you got them all right. So well done. Now we're going to have a look at the questions now. Okay, so for question 2, the question asks you to partition into hundreds, tens and units. But this question, number 3, is a little bit different because it's asking you to partition the number differently, because you can see by the first number that that's not just the hundreds, because it's got tens in there as well. So this one is just asking you to partition a number in a different way. So the target is 400 and you're just finding 3 numbers that you can add to make 400. So partition, remember, just means to split up. So we're just splitting up 400 into 3 sections, 3 chunks. One of them is 250 and you need to put 2 more in there. Now there are lots of possibilities for this. Okay, so you may well find many different ways of doing it, and it'll be really great if you can find more than one way. See if you can find 2 or 3 ways for each one. That would be really good. Now, one way to approach this is to look at a number line and think about jumping on. Okay, so on this number line here, so you're starting on 250 because that's one of your chunks and you're trying to get to 400, okay? Now, you can just make jumps to get up there. Now, we've already got one of the chunks and you only need 2 more numbers. You're only allowed 2 jumps, okay? But I'll show you an example of what you could do, okay? So, for example, an obvious one to me would be to do a jump of 50. Okay, so I'm going to add 50. That's going to be one of my boxes. Where does that take me? 300. That's right. And now I need to get up to 400, which is nice and easy. So up we go. That is adding 100. Okay, so I've got 2 chunks here. So on this question, I would write down adding 50, so that makes it 300, and another 100 makes it 400, okay? Now I want you to see if you can not use that example, okay, because that's probably the easiest one. I want you to see if you can find 1, 2 or 3 other ways of doing that, okay? Think about other jumps that you could do. You could do a smaller jump and then a big one. You could do a big jump and then a small one. Okay, so I want you to see if you can try and be clever. Okay, try and be clever and impress me. Now for the next one, 420, add something is 600. Okay, so for that one, very similar idea. All right, so you're starting from 420 and you're trying to get to 600 in 2 more jumps. Okay, so think about what you could do. So you could do 1 jump and another jump, and it depends how much you want to jump each time. Okay, you could do a little bit and then a lot, or a lot and a little bit, or you could do something more obvious. Okay, so maybe make it up to the next 100 and then go from there. Maybe add on a bigger chunk to start with. Okay, I'm not going to write down any numbers for that one because I want you to do it yourself. Okay. Now, we're going to have a little look at question 4, okay, because that one is fairly straightforward now and I think you'll get it. This one is just a bit bigger and you're trying to get up to 1,000, okay, but just the same principle, okay. So let's have a little look at question 4 now. Okay, so question 4, now this looks fairly confusing because there seems to be an awful lot of boxes, but actually it's simpler than the last question. Now you could do this in a more complicated way, because actually it just says use partitioning to do the following sums. Now, there are different ways to do this, but I think what it's trying to get you to do is it's wanting you to break up the numbers into their tens and units, so that you can add them up. Okay, and it might depend the order that you put them down. You might do the tens, units, but I think that's what it's aiming for you to do, because you're wanting to add these numbers, so you're obviously going to want to break it up, partition, into something logical. Okay, so just remember, when you are splitting a number into hundreds, tens and units, you are just taking the number apart. Okay, so if I've got 397, okay, that's made up of 300, 90 and 7. Okay, so in this question it just wants you to break up those numbers 51 and 46. Okay, so just in the same way, we've got 51, okay, and we are adding 46. Okay, now I want you to see if you can have a guess, and I'm sure you'll get it very quickly, as to what it would be if I partitioned those numbers. What would I have here? If I broke these up into tens and units, I would have 50 and 1, and here I would have 40 and 6. That's right. So now if you look at the boxes that we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the answer, we've now got 4 numbers that we could put in those boxes. Now it depends which order you put them in, because remember, you do need to add them to find an answer. Now you might find that doing 50, add 1, add 40, and then add 6 is the best way. You might find that actually doing 50, add 40, do your tens first, the big ones, then think about your units at the end. Okay, add 1, add 6, or add 6, add 1. I often go by the rule that if you add the biggest numbers, we'll start with the biggest numbers and then add on as you go down, it kind of makes it a bit easier. So we've got 50 and 40, 6 and 1, okay, and then that would give you that answer there. Okay, and it would be the same principle with 22 and 67. Okay, so you'd break up 22 into tens and units, you'd partition 67 into tens and units. You write them into the boxes, the numbers that you now have after partitioning, and then you'll work out the answer. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit with that one. Now, question 5 is a similar idea, but it's just in a word problem. Okay, so it's just asking you to add 2 numbers together. Now, ideally, you need to try and do this mentally in your head, but remember, we do have our column method, which you can use to help you, and there is a video on my Pocket Teacher YouTube channel which helps you with your column method if you have forgotten how to do it. So do look at that if you need to, but you should be able to do these questions in your head. Okay, and using partitioning, this will help you to do it. Okay, that's why these pages have been working on partitioning. Okay, because then you can use it to help you with these. Okay, so I just want you to imagine for a second, I'm just going to show you a different word problem, just different one to this one. Okay, in another context. So we've got a problem here. We've got, there are 15 flowers in the flower bed, and Mr. Crump plants 28 more. How many flowers are there now? Okay, so we need to add together the flowers that we've got. So we've got 15 flowers in the flower bed, and Mr. Crump plants 28 more. How many flowers are there now? Now, with the previous question, it wanted you to, there were 4 boxes, and it was asking you to break up the numbers that you were adding, to partition the numbers that you were adding into 4 different numbers so that you could add them up. But actually, That's quite a lot of numbers to hold in your head if you're doing it mentally. So I would recommend just keeping one number together and then partitioning just one of them and adding it on, okay? Because otherwise it's a lot to hold in your head, okay? So we're starting with 15, all right? And then we're going to add on 28 more flowers, okay? So the 28 flowers that we're going to add on. All right, so I'm going to partition 28 to help me to add it on to the 15 flowers that are already there. Okay, so I'm going to partition 28 into 20 and 8. And then I'm going to work out what the answer is. So we've got 15. Okay, and I'm going to add on the 20 to start with and work out what that is. So see if you can tell me what that is. I'll give you a pause. So adding 2 10s on. Okay, that's 35. And then I'm going to add on the 8. Okay, then I'm going to add on the 8. Okay, who can tell me what that is? 40, 5 more to get to 40 and 3 left over. Okay, so 43. So I didn't partition both numbers because actually it's a lot to hold in your head, because otherwise you need to think a 10 and a 20 and a 5 and an 8. So keep one whole. Okay, keep the one whole and then add on what you need to, and you can partition that number. Okay, so I partitioned it into 20 and 8 to make it easier. Okay, the 28 here. All right, let's just have a look at one more. Well, in fact, let's have another quick look back at this one. And you can just have a look and see how it compares. So I'm not going to work this one out, but just so you can see. So Sophie's bus has 17 passengers, 21 more people get on. How many passengers are there on the bus now? Okay, so just like the last one, I would recommend leaving this one whole and partitioning this one to add on, okay, because that's how many more you're adding on. Okay, so we're leaving the number of passengers that were already there whole, and then I'm going to partition the 21 to add on in bits to the 17. Okay, so think about what 21 would partition into tens and units. Okay, now with the next question, question 6, it's quite similar to this question that I've got written down underneath here. Okay, Mrs. Francis, now this is a bit of a comedy question, because considering the state of things at the moment in the shops, this one might make you chuckle. Mrs. Francis buys 2 packets of toilet rolls containing 24 rolls each. Aren't I lucky? How many toilet rolls in total? Okay. Now, forget about that bottom bit at the moment, because we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, this is very similar to question 6. Okay. Now, it's slightly different, this one, in that there's not 2 numbers that you're adding, starting with 15, adding 28. It just says you've got 2 packets with 24 in each. Okay, so what are we actually adding? We are actually adding a 24 and a 24, okay? Or we're doing 24 times 2, or 2 times 24, okay? Because we've got 2 packets, there's 24 in each packet, and we need to find out the total. Okay, so you can work this out with partitioning. You might be able to work it out easily just by doubling, but you can work it out just like we did up here as well. Okay, so you keep that, the first 24 together, and then the second 24 we will partition, okay, into 20 and 4. Okay, so we've got 24 add 20 is what? 44, and then we're going to add on the 4. Okay, now I've done the 20 and the 4, which was the partitioned number there. Okay, just to make sure that I've got all my bits, I haven't left anything behind. So 44 add 4 is 48. Okay, which you hopefully should have got if you did do the multiplication way as well. Okay, now if it says to you, the question doesn't say this in your textbook, but just to talk to you about it while we're here, how many in 3 packets? So how many 24s are we adding now? 3, that's right. So we've got 24 in packet number 1, we've got 24 in packet number 2, and 24 in packet number 3. Okay, far too many toilet rolls for one house, I would say. So again, you could do it by multiplication. You're doing 3 lots of 24 now. Okay, some of you will be able to do that in your head. But you are also just adding 3 lots of 24 here. Okay. Now, if you didn't have the question before that we were working out, we know that 2 packets was 48. Okay, so if we know that, and then it said how many in 3 packets, we could just add on 1 lot of 24 onto the 2 that we already had. But if you haven't worked that out before, you do it in the same way, but just go along and add another 24 afterwards. Okay, so 24 add 20 as we partitioned, it was 44 as we said, add the 4 because that's what 24 is partitioned, so that's that one that we've done, is 48, and then we're going to partition this one and add 20 again, and then we're going to put them together. What's that? 48 and 20, 68, and then we're going to add on the other 4 there, which is 72. Okay, that's your answer. All right, so you can just do it in stages. So we'll partition this one, 20 and 4, partition this one, 20 and 4. Okay, so that's that question. That will help you with question 6. Okay, now that's all I'm going to talk to you about with those pages for now. But I do have a little challenge if you fancy an extra partitioning challenge, those of you who love your maths, and it will be good for anyone to do this. So I'm going to go on to talk about that challenge now, if you would like to do it. And as I said, there'll be another video this week as well, which is going to look at pages 15 and 16 as well. Okay, I hope the rest of the pages go well that you're doing this week. And as I said, let me know if you've got any questions. Okay, so this is your challenge, your partitioning challenge, your little extra bonus. I want you to see if you can find as many ways as you can to partition 86. Okay, so you'll need a piece of paper for this. All right, so you can do a bit of a mind map like I've done. Okay, so obviously, what is the most obvious way to partition 86? Yes, 80 and 6. 80 and 6. Okay, now there are lots more interesting ways that you could partition 86. Okay, so for example, I could do 70 and, if I've taken a 10 away from here, I need to put it onto there, 16. Okay, that's one way. There's lots of other ways. I'm not going to give you any more now because I want you to see how many you can find, and maybe you can email in with how many different ways you found and take a picture and show it to me. I would love to see it. You might want to have a look at what you might add to 50. You might want to think about what you might add to 82. You might want to think about what you could add to, those of you who want a bit of a challenge, 80.5. Okay, and there's many ways that you could do it. Now, because this is a partitioning challenge, they should all be adding, okay? Because when you're partitioning a number, you're splitting it up. So you can't have 90 take away 4, okay? Because that's not splitting up the number because you haven't started with 80. 86 is not your starting point, okay? So just adding 2 numbers together, okay? 2 numbers to make 86. All right, so there's your little challenge. As I said, do take a picture, send it in so I can have a look if you'd like to. That is just a bonus challenge. And I'll leave you with a funny picture. And I hope you are having a lovely week. Hopefully the sun might be shining again, just as it did on the first week, but we shall see. Make sure you spend lots of time doing other fun activities at the same time as well. Bye-bye.